Welcome. Tonight is, oh, that's awfully loud. I'll move that away. It's August 28th. This is the Community Policing Advisory Review Board. Thank you all for coming. What we're going to do tonight, we're going to start with introductions so that you know who we are. And then we're going to have a little bit of presentation around the resignations if I have approval to change the agenda. And then we'll have elections, just so that people understand why and what's going on the board, because typically we're a seven-member board, okay? So if I could have introductions. I'm Lydia.
My name is Lydia Winter.
I'm Jeff Vickers.
Welcome. Kate Cost.
Jesse McFarland.
Scott Frost.
Okay, so the resignations and next steps, both Lindsay Brillian and Vicki Lamprin have resigned since our June meeting. And on Monday's select board meeting, the board determined that what we should do, instead of all members having training, they're going to keep it to how our new resolution is, which, and I'll read it directly, just that the CPARB will elect a chair, vice chair, and a recording secretary on an annual basis following annual board appointments by the select board. The chair and vice chair must be current on all training requirements prior to election. They've also decided that the secretary who is elected needs to have completed the Vermont's open meeting law, and that in fact has occurred. Okay, so all the members that you see before you have all completed that training, as well as continuing members have completed all of the previous training. So, and with that, I'll take nominations for chair.
I nominate Kate Cost.
I need a second?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? Any abstentions? All right, I'm chair. Thank you so much. Yay. And now I'd like to take nominations for vice chair.
Mr. Vickers.
I need a second.
A second.
A second. Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You're opposed.
No, I'm just kidding.
I was like, oh, no. What do you do then? Well, thanks for that. We need some comedy. And any abstentions? All right.
I guess
thank you.
I abstained.
You abstained?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Vickers.
Sure.
And now I'd like to entertain nominations for secretary.
I nominate Scott Frost.
Well, it does, actually, because there's 3 people who could be. So I second the motion. All those in favor, say aye.
Do we have a second?
I seconded.
Okay, sorry.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Mr. Frost is now secretary. All right. Well, thank you very, very much. And now I'd like the town vision to be read.
Bennington is a welcoming, engaging, inclusive, and resilient community where everyone, regardless of identity, shares in our vitality and benefits from an outstanding quality of life.
Thank you. Could I have consent of the agenda? With the change that the resignations were discussed at the time of the elections.
I make a motion, we accept the agenda with that modification.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Scott. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Any abstentions? The agenda has been approved. And now can I have a motion on acceptance of the minutes?
I make a motion, we accept the minutes as written.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on that? No? Can I have a vote then? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay? Say nay? No? Abstentions? No. All right, thank you. And then we'll move right into the agenda
Public comment.
with public comment. Thank you, Jonah. Is it Doug?
Is it Donna Carroll?
Not Donna Campbell.
Campbell.
Okay. Would you like to take it?
Yeah, I sure would.
Thank you.
Let's see, how to say it. Not too happy there with our
Yeah, go ahead.
police department. There was an incident. It happened January 9th. My son, Gordon Campbell, called the cops twice. There was 4 people on my porch. And the dispatcher there heard yelling and screaming. And the dispatcher there asked who was doing the yelling and screaming. He told them there was 4 people on our porch. By the time the cops got there, they went over to my neighbor's house. I had to shut my door 3 times because the kid there with the black hair, bushy hair, almost came in, almost hit me. My son gets arrested, gets tased in my house. Them 4 did not get arrested. My son ended up down in Troy for 2 weeks because he got tased with the, because he had a pacemaker. Now the neighbors are still going at it with me. They throw my cats. I called the police department. They came over to make it look good, said they talked to my neighbors, then they left. Now, I'm a 69-year-old woman. I don't have to be afraid to go mow my lawn or anything like that while they're calling us fags and everything like that, and the police department's not doing nothing about it. I want to know why them 4 people didn't get charged when they came over to my house.
Thank you for sharing that. The usual.
And if I push the issue, I'm not going to like the consequences. Well, I was born and raised in Bennington, Vermont. And when we call a cop, they should come over. That dispatcher did not send nobody over to after the incident was open. And then I made a statement out. My statement gets lost. I go down to the state's attorney to go get it. They refuse it. I am suing the Bennington PD because of their incidents.
As I said, thank you for sharing this. This board does not,
Well,
hang on.
they said there I had to come.
I think what you're sharing is really important. And what
Yes.
yes, and what
because I'm getting sick and tired of it.
when
When my son didn't do nothing, and he's the one that got tased, and then everything gets turned around, saying that a cop came to my house, Dave Finicky, He wasn't the cop. It was
somebody
there.
else. Yeah.
It was 3 other ones. Now, everything's getting shoved under the table,
No.
and I don't like it.
And I appreciate that.
I want to know why them 4 people did not get charged.
As this board cannot answer that question. Hang on.
Yeah, because
What I would like you to...
they work for UCS?
What I would like for you to do, though, is to file, because you feel so strongly about this.
Yes, I am.
Right, and so follow this up. The police department has a whole complaint process, because you're obviously...
Yes, if this here has been since January 9th.
It doesn't matter how long ago it was.
Except what I'm saying. I'm a taxpayer just like anybody else. I might be, I work part-time. Except I'm still a taxpayer.
Absolutely.
And I'm still want to know why these 4 people didn't get charged. They came over to my house.
Exactly. So, but there's a process that has to be followed.
Well, I get run around.
No,
and I'm tired of it.
I appreciate that. And what we want to do is we want to be able to help you move this forward. So you've got to be able to...
I could have lost my son because he got tased because he's got a pacemaker.
Right.
They kept him in joy. I lost one son, died. I'm not going to lose another because of the police department's doings. They did just only would have saved him there because he started cutting up himself. And we tried to tell him he had a pacemaker. His pacemaker there, even the doctors asked what was wrong with the cops up here tasing somebody with a pacemaker.
I'm so sorry about your son.
Yeah,
and no-
I'm not trying to bring up my son to bad.
Yeah, that's-
Except
and
I'm not going to lose another son.
Exactly. And so what we want to be able to do is help you then follow through with this, because we can't act on it until there is a complaint.
Well, I'm making a complaint.
Well, there's a formal process.
It's got to be written out.
And so,
But they won't take it.
No, it's, if you go to the police department,
For what?
well,
I get there,
they can
then
help.
the dispatchers there, they're like
Hang on.
bitches.
Please, okay.
There.
There is a complaint process that the
They won't
department...
take it. I got the proof right here.
It's not for us.
And Paul knows it. Paul's a liar. You know it, Paul.
Please,
Gordy,
Paul, you know it.
Gordy,
please.
Paul, you know it.
Gordy,
No, why,
sir,
Paul?
sir, please.
Paul,
Gordy, you know the truth here.
Paul, I know the truth. You told me to do a record request and all that. I got the email, from that Heather. She told me I couldn't get one due to the fact that there was a minor involved, and I got the proof from her message and your freaking email. Told me different.
I know.
What do you mean enough? Because you don't like the proof? I got the proof right here that
Gordy, if you and your mom want to file a complaint, I'm happy to meet with you like I have multiple times.
multiple times, I got the proof right here, none of the statements that you sat down to the state's attorneys never made it. And you know that for a fact. You want to see the proof?
For a fact, Gordy.
I got the proof right here in writing. Right here in writing. I can show you.
Why don't you call me tomorrow and you can make an appointment to come and see me like you have.
Paul, you don't call back. I got the proof right here. All the proof is right here. I can show it on Cat TV.
Please, sir, this is, yeah, this is beyond,
Paul, you're a joke, and I'm going to sue you in federal court for
I'm
abuse
going for
and
my...
power and neglect. And what you did to my brother Raymond, you killed Raymond.
Come on, Gordy.
And what you did, and you guys tried to kill me
Okay.
on January 9th,
Gordy, please.
and your directives.
Come on.
And you know, and you guys don't know.
I know, please file a complaint.
What you did to my dad. You're allowing it to all of them.
Well,
What you did.
yeah, okay.
I'm sick and tired of people calling the faggot constantly. That's a hate crime.
Gordy, call me, make the appointment.
Why
Why? Because you'd like to file a complaint.
I did that, hold on. I want people to hear this.
Met with you multiple times.
I want people to hear this, that you guys are allowing the next door neighbor to call me a faggot. That's a hate crime under Vermont statute of disorderly conduct. Under Vermont statute, look what you guys did to that woman.
We're not bringing your ours.
No,
come on.
I'm done being called a faggot on a daily basis. When I call for help, I get no help. I call 3 times and talk to COVID Dion and all that. I get no help. What's going to happen next? Is there somebody kills me? Your police department is a joke. And you know that.
That's your opinion.
What do you mean your opinion? When's the last time a cop came on? I called 3 times. I got proof.
Okay.
With COVID Dion and all that, I talked.
Come down and see me like you have multiple.
I haven't. You've done nothing. You guys have done nothing.
Come on. We said our piece.
You should be fired. You're corrupted. Like Kevin Hoy and all of them.
Come on.
I can't believe you're ashamed of Bennington.
Gordy.
Thank you.
All right.
Let's go. Now.
You're a disgrace. You should burn in hell.
Come on. Let's go.
Thank you, Chief, for your intervention in that and being able to calm that down as much as one can. So I appreciate that. Next up on the agenda is the BPD update. And as Chief is coming up, I have 2 things that I'd like to share. First, on behalf of the board, I'd like to congratulate all of the officers who were promoted. Promotions to corporal include James McCauley, Nicholas Jones, Ryan McConna, Sean Madigan. We have our sincere congratulations on that. And promotions to sergeant are Keith Diott, Corey Briggs, and Daniel Ferrara. It's wonderful, wonderful news. The second item that I'd like to share is our sincere thank you and appreciation for the department saving that woman in the fire that just happened the other day. The bravery of officers that did that is to be commended, and as a board, we really appreciate those efforts.
Thank you.
Okay. Did you have anything you wanted to say before we start to ask questions about your report? If not, we'll move right to those questions. It's up to you.
I'm happy to take questions. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. As you know, we meet every other month, and we have the opportunity. Kind of short. We have the opportunity to meet every other month. I apologize for not being here last month. Something came up for Lieutenant Grandy and I. We were both accepted to the FBI LEADA training program. It was a master's level program. It was for 2 weeks down in Delaware, Smyrna, Delaware, to be exact, and we were not able to make the meeting. That does happen. I think that's only the second meeting that I've missed since the inception of CPARB, so I apologize for missing that. Lieutenant Grandy is not here yet. We were double booked for tonight as well. As you know, Garlic Town, USA is this weekend here in Bennington. The town manager did sign a contract with the chamber, and normally on Thursday nights before Garlic Town, Lieutenant Grandy and I meet with all of the volunteers, and we do a safety lecture, and we talk about how to keep themselves safe and keep the crowd safe. So we we split up our responsibilities. I'm here, and he's across the pond over at the Garlic Town event. So he will be joining us just not at the moment. So, with that being said, I know Kate and I met, and we opted not to have me do the whole presentation that I made to the Select Board. Sometimes that does happen. I do go in front of the Select Board at least quarterly and do a presentation about some of the things that we're working on. And I did that recently. Normally, they give me 15 to 20 minutes. It never seems to go 15 or 20 minutes. I don't know how that happens. But generally, good questions come up from both Select Board members and the community. And sometimes the chief gets a little carried away. And so hopefully you all had the opportunity to watch that presentation. I'm really happy to answer any questions that you might have related to that before we move on to other topics.
I just had one comment. I wanted to thank you for the great job that you guys did with the backpack and bike giveaway. And I'm just sorry I wasn't around at that time to help, but it looked like it went really well.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. We appreciate that. We had a lot of community partners. You know, the Bennington banner did a lot of advertising for that event, as an example, and you know, that came at no cost to us. For the people that were there, it was a highly attended event. We gave away lots of backpacks, lots of bicycles, and made a lot of people happy. And if you watched my Select Board presentation, there was a little funny in there. You could have heard a pin drop when I said we were giving away the Chevy Silverado truck. And people were like, "Ooh," and I thought, how are we going to pay for this? No. But it was a great event. There were so many people there, so many appreciative kids, you know, the cotton candy and the popcorn, and Lieutenant Grandy was on the grill. He loves to be on the grill. And, you know, we made a lot of people happy. We had a great visit from the Vermont Army Guard, landing a helicopter out in the middle of the soccer field there, and the line for that was unbelievable. It was almost as long as the line for cotton candy. So that was a great show. And then, you know, if you all followed, you saw that we introduced and swore in Grizzly, our newest canine, and that was well received as well. So I appreciate you bringing that up. Thank you.
Other questions? Other questions? I had a question about the analyst. You mentioned in your report that you were in the process of, I believe, advertising for that. But that also, and I forget her name, the guards woman who is currently an analyst but will now be have to leave because of a tour of duty that's coming up. I wondered what the plans were, because it sounded like both what the lieutenant does right now is what the analyst that you're hiring would do, and then the guardswoman does something else.
Right, so it's two different positions.
Yes,
the
yeah.
Vermont Army National Guard has a counter-drug program.
Okay.
That counter-drug program allows us to have an analyst to work with our detectives and our patrol officers in combating illegal drug crime and violence.
Right.
And so that's what she does. And then we're also going to look to hire an analyst to work alongside of Lieutenant Grandy for now to look at some of the analytical data that we have as far as crime in general, unhoused individuals, people in need, things like that. It's not a social worker position by any stretch of the imagination. You know, we are heavily involved in several different programs within Bennington and Bennington County to help people in need. So that analyst will, that particular analyst, if and when hired, will be able to produce information for us. If you saw the presentation, you know that one select board member asked for quarterly crime data, and we would be using the analyst to draw draw things like that, make particular charts and graphs and see where we're at, and things like that.
Will
So-
the Army Guardswomen be replaced? Will they be bringing somebody in for that?
That's a great question, Kate.
Okay.
And it's almost like you're ahead of yourself because at this point, I do have an email that came just today from the Vermont Army Guard asking if we would like to continue with an analyst position to help us continue to combat the drug crime related activity in southern Vermont here. So I plan to respond to that tomorrow because the answer is definitely yes.
Yeah, wonderful. Just as a follow-up question to that, so many of our goals for CPARB are related to data and data analysis. Is there a possibility, or I know this will be a much deeper conversation, but is there a possibility at all that that analyst that you're hiring would be able to assist us in some of the data analysis that we're required to do?
Yeah, so a request would be made through the lieutenant or I, and we would hand off that request. First, we would review it to make sure it's within.
Your purview.
So, and we would hand that off, and we would generate the data, and then we would be able to provide that.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
I had one other question. Being down 8 officers, how are you guys doing?
Well, I mean, we're not doing great. We're doing the best that we can, and you know, like I'm gonna answer that with an example. Okay, this time of year, it's time to go back to school, but it's also time where we are involved in the You Drink, You Drive, You Lose campaign. And people in the community see increased traffic enforcement in certain areas of town, and then they want that traffic enforcement in their part of town. And so we see an increase this time of year, every year, for requests for traffic enforcement in different parts of town. Our highway safety funds that we receive from the state of Vermont are generally used in high crash areas. And we're looking for people that are distracted while driving, people that are exceeding the speed limit, and people that are operating under the influence of drugs and/or alcohol. So if you don't automatically, like our speed carts, for example, are out, and we're collecting data with speed carts, also using those as tools to get people to slow down within communities, different parts of our communities. So I think that's important that we all realize that some of the traffic enforcement that you're currently seeing are or is a result of requests from community members, but at the same time, focusing on areas that we see high rates of traffic crashes this time of year. You'll also notice there's the day shift crew went out yesterday. They made a couple of videos, put them together, put them up on Facebook, reminding people that school's going back into session, and we're asking people to slow down in school zones. In less than 24 hours, that particular video received over 17,000 hits. That's a lot. As far away as Utah, people were commenting. And that's the new look that you're going to see from the Bennington Police Department. We're going to try to use social media a little bit more and make little short video clips and things like that to let people know what's going on. It's just some of the little things that we pick up when we go off to training. This is just a great example of using the video clips to gain people's attention. Looking at a typed press release from the chief, or looking at still photos, people really want to see videos, and we've got some cute things that we've put together too. I want to think about that a little bit more because we don't want to take away from seriousness. So, but that's going to be our new look. Jonah contacted me yesterday and was pleased with the video clips, and I responded back 2 words: changing times. And that's where we're at. I want to make sure that people understand that you're going to see more little video clips from the officers out in the field and things like that. Those are things that draw attention to our social media and keep people safe. Soon you'll be seeing clips for as we get closer to the cold. As an example, you'll see some of our work towards keeping the community safe during cold weather conditions. Joan is part of that crew also, and we're going to do some videos on emergency preparedness and things like that. So might be some humor in them to draw people's attention. Again, it's not meant to make light of anything. It's just to get people's attention and get people to be self-prepared for different things, whether they live in Bennington, North Bennington, Shasbury, whatever. We want our videos to go viral and keep people safe. So that's our plan.
Any other questions? Then I have one more, and it's related to the FEMA cutting, the cuts that are going to FEMA in terms of emergency management and how that might, I wouldn't imagine that you've got any kind of plan right now or that you've got solid information about those cuts, but I'm wondering about strategies if the resources are pulled back.
Yeah, so strategies, the most important strategy is self-preparedness. Right. We want people to understand that they need to be prepared for at least a 3-day event. We've been very fortunate. We have that spine of mountains that really protects Bennington for the most part. Wilmington and Dover get a lot of ice and things like that. We've been very fortunate over the years, but we still want people in Bennington to be prepared. We've seen, North Shasbury, southern part of Arlington. We've seen parts of Manchester all be affected by ice, and knock on wood, it's been a while since we've seen that here in Bennington, North Bennington, Old Bennington. But we are working on preparedness. That's another, I know some people are probably thinking, what does this have to do with the police? It has a lot to do with the police because we're ultimately responsible for making sure that our community is safe. But there's a whole committee of folks, and I keep looking at Jonah because he's part of that committee, and we're looking to boost people's awareness and make sure that people have themselves and their families lined up for at least 3 days of a weather-related emergency or some type of catastrophe. And we're making sure that we're ready to open up the shelter at the middle school. We've done that a few times in my career, and we just want to make sure that we're prepared for all of that. So those are things that we're working on.
Thank you.
Can I ask another question about emergency management? As you have mentioned, schools just started up, and there's been incidences in other parts of the country, and I'm just curious how you partner with SVMU or SVSU to have plans in place for emergencies related to
Sure. So we really do have a great partnership with the SVSU. I'm very pleased to see the hiring of Mr. Payne, although I didn't want to see Mr. Payne leave the high school. I think he's in a good position being the superintendent of schools for the SVSU. I did meet with Mr. Payne over the summer. We had a great working relationship when he was at Mount Anthony Union High School. The officers are stopping by the schools. The officers are outside of the schools. Yesterday I did visit myself personally with 3 of our local elementary schools and either visited with the administrative assistant out front or the principal themselves. So that's what we're doing this time of year. We're very well aware of what happened in Minnesota, and we have had some requests just that came in today about making sure that we're including Sacred Heart School, and I can assure you that we include Sacred Heart School in our planning. We visit Sacred Heart School. We're involved in that community as well. And so, that's really where we're at the high school level. There are officers generally assigned to the school, sometimes 2 officers a day, making sure that the schools are safe, and the officers are actively patrolling. And you'll see some of the officers going into the elementary schools, as an example, around lunchtime and having lunch engage with the kids. Although the benches are a little bit small, you will see that. And that's a promise that I made to the elementary school teachers. So we will be in and out of the schools.
Thank you. So let's move on then to the next item for your discussion on the, just because we've had a lot of requests or and interest in our department's relationship with ICE, response to ICE, and obviously there was just an incident in Manchester a couple of days ago. So I wondered if you could talk to us a little bit about Vermont's stance and your adherence to that.
Yes, this is a topic that we've addressed both at the select board level and here at CPARB on a couple of occasions now. We are not enforcing any federal policies as they relate to ICE. We are not actively going out with ICE and rounding people up. The Bennington Police Department is not participating in any of that. As I've shared before, if a law enforcement agency is within the confines of Bennington, Old Bennington, or North Bennington, and someone calls for assistance and there's a dire need for law enforcement assistance, we're not going to look the other way on that. We will go and assist them, but we will not be taking people into custody because they have civil arrest warrants or what have you. That's not what we do, and we won't be doing that. And I think it's important, this topic keeps coming up about, what do the Bennington police do? And, we have a very clear, fair, and impartial policing policy. It is the policy that was adopted by the state, and the state asked that municipal law enforcement agencies, county law enforcement agencies, and state agencies all adopt. And our policy was last updated in 2024, as was the policy that is on the Vermont Criminal Justice Council website. So we are in compliance with that, and I think it's important that, for example, we were at a meeting this week at the Multicultural Center. I feel welcome there, folks do come up and talk to my officers. I don't really think that there's anyone in Bennington that is afraid of the Bennington police. We're here to protect everybody. We're a welcoming community, and we'll continue to be that way. You're welcome.
Just a question.
Questions?
The fair and impartial policing policy that's on the town's website is still the one that was adopted in 2021.
Okay.
So that's kind of a housekeeping issue, but we are required by, as you know, required by statute to have our policy align with the policy that was that the Criminal Justice Council issued in April of '24. And I think they corrected some typos in June of '24. But that's the policy that we should, at a minimum, have on the towns as part of our policies.
I apologize for that. I'll get together with Jonah and we'll take a look at that. But I can tell you that our policy that we're currently maintaining at the police department is, and in fact, the state does check up on us, not just the Bennington Police Department, but checks up on law enforcement agencies, and we're required to send our policy to the Attorney General's office for review, and our policy has been reviewed and we're found to be in compliance. So if it's not correct on the website, I apologize for that, and we'll get that corrected.
That's good, because I think when the public goes to look and see, people who are interested in this want to see what our policy is, there's a big difference between what we had in 2021 and what was adopted in 2024. And in addition, and I'm not sure when is appropriate for me to introduce a motion on this matter, but the statute also gives us the ability to add to that 2024 policy to strengthen it. And since the 2024 policy was written during a previous administration, and since that time, there's a new administration, and that administration's enforcement activities, as Kate mentioned, as recently as in Manchester, are way different from what they were in 2024. I would also comment that there is a subcommittee of the Criminal Justice Council that is the Fair and Impartial Policing Subcommittee, and they are currently meeting because they are required in even-numbered years to update that policy, and they're in the process of doing that now. Just mention to people who are interested, you can see their agendas and their meeting minutes online, and if you want to watch their meetings remotely, you can, to see what they're doing. So, that said, I have a question. Are you familiar with the federal ICE 287G program?
I would have to look that up. Give me that one more time, please.
287G is in George. This is a brochure, and I have other copies. You're welcome to have one. This is an ICE published brochure. 287G refers to a federal statute. The 287G program, as promulgated by ICE, basically, in my opinion, deputizes local police departments.
Won't happen.
Thank you. The town of Wells, Maine, recently, the police chief in Wells, Maine, apparently executed an agreement on with this program, and it caused quite an uproar. To the extent that the state legislature in Maine is now considering a statewide prohibition on any local agency participating in this program. It's a dangerous thing to deal with, and I'm going to actually make a motion now that the Select Board consider the 287G policy and issue a specific policy for guidance to our police department regarding participation in the 287G policy. That's a motion.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Discussion.
Is that something that would be brought up at a select board meeting for them to make the motion to them directly versus, I don't know if us saying it here would translate to their meetings. I'm not sure.
My motion is for them to consider it, to take it up.
Yeah.
We can't obviously implement the change, but it's something. I appreciate your position on this, Chief Doucette. I would like to see a definitive statement from the Select Board saying that we will not participate in this program.
I think if we're still in the discussion piece, I think, Mr. Haley, you can chime in on this. Mr. Haley, I'm so sorry. I apologize. Mr. Adams, I apologize. I'm just so used to talking with Mr. Haley, I apologize. We recently had an emergency room physician here at a select board meeting, and there was a document adopted, I believe, by the select board, if my memory serves me correctly. when Dr. Kelly was here, there was a proclamation or something, there was some conversation. I can assure you, this happened in almost the entire state of New Hampshire, where law enforcement agencies were deputized by ICE. It's not going to happen in the town of Bennington, not as long as I'm the chief. We are not here to enforce federal law. I've spoken to you about that as far as, we can enforce federal law, but we're not going to enforce federal law when it comes to detaining people with ICE. If anybody watches the news, not the news, but the Albany television channels are now showing advertisements for ICE, which drives me crazy because we're having a hard enough time finding law enforcement officers to fill roles here in Vermont, and Bennington in particular, being down 8, and now there are television commercials asking law enforcement officers that are fed up with the way things are going to join ICE, www.whatever. I'm not going to give out the whole address, and it's frustrating. I can tell you that there is not one single member of the Bennington Police Department that is going to go out and do raids with ICE. I fully respect your motion. I think it's something that needs to go in front of the select board, and I'd be happy to meet with you, Lydia, one-on-one. If you'd like, we can do that, and talk about your position, and I can help you prepare something if you'd like. We're not going to get deputized by ICE here. It's just not going to happen.
Again, the motion is just to make sure that the select board looks at this.
The issue, I think, is that the select board, you need to present that to the select board. Otherwise, you've added us in the middle of that. That would be my sense of that. Jonah, did you want to?
My name is Jonah Spivak, Communications Coordinator for the Town of Bennington. I just wanted to note that in regards to the ICE 287G program, Vermont is one of 4 states that has no active or pending agreements in regards to that program.
And we'd like to keep it that way.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right.
Isn't that the advisory component, though?
We don't advise the select board as such. I mean, you're asking for a motion for us to then take this to the select board for them to, in fact, act. My concern is that it seems that it would be more direct if this was presented directly to the select board for them to act, rather than for us to be sort of this mediator in some way, or middle person.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think that's our job to do that on this committee.
Yeah, Clark, did you want to?
Well, if this committee has information they would like the select board to look into, I don't see a problem with you presenting the information you have there, Lydia. I've not heard of that program. Sounds like other people at a much higher level than myself have, and have not acted on it by acting on it, saying no. So if that's something you think the select board needs to be involved with, I have no problem with you furnishing that information to us, because even giving it to the chief, essentially, he's going to talk to Mr. Haley or the town manager, and it's going to come right back to our desk anyways.
Right.
So my feelings are that any issue that you folks have that you feel is within the purview of the select board, just let us know.
Okay. Kelly, did you want to say something?
I'm not messing with the light on that, but I think that is a perfect example of an opportunity for you to work with your liaison and have the select board liaison go as your intermediary and try to get that onto their agenda, and then work with whatever you wanted to present. But they're your kind of go-between to help you with stuff like that, to try to get on the agenda and do that. So.
Other discussion?
I guess for me, and it's been motions made and seconded, so we have to vote. Having just heard about it the first time today and never doing any research, I'll abstain because I don't know enough to vote for me personally. I'd like to research and understand it, not that I'm for or against, I just don't. Before you mentioned it, I didn't know anything about it, so that's just, I'll make my vote that, but when it comes to it, but that's the reason why I wanted to explain.
And I think, and I like Kelly's idea of, presenting to our liaison, let them present it to the select board.
Other thoughts or questions? Anyone from the audience? No? Okay, could you restate your motion? I'm sorry, just so that we can, just restating it, we don't need to second.
The motion was with regard to the 287G program that we simply ask the select board to take a position on any participation by our police department in this program.
All right, we've had the motion and a second. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain.
I'll abstain.
I'll abstain.
Okay, so there's 3 of us then for aye. And so the motion passes. Lydia, could you take the, I'm sorry? Could you take the lead on this since you're really very familiar with working with Clark?
Sure.
About,
Yep.
All right, thank you so much.
I also, I apologize, but this is where it is in the agenda, and I feel like I need to bring it up now. And it has to do with the updated fair and impartial policing policy. I had a motion prepared to update the policy. Apparently, that's already been done. It's just a housekeeping matter to make sure that the current policy, as based on the state's model, is on our website. But there was a 2-part motion on this, and I'd like to at least...
Lydia, I'm sorry to interrupt, but could you wait for that on the agenda? I would like to hear from the chief about the training that they actually provide to officers on this, so that we can at least, if that's okay, if we could just do this and then as a board we could talk about the training and because we'll be able to respond to the chief about what training they actually receive on it, if that's okay.
The motion pertains specifically to the updated fair and impartial policing policy. So here we are. We know that the new model has been adopted. I have a motion that will ask for further consideration by the select board with regard to that policy. I'd be happy to, if you tell me when you'd like to hear my motion, and I will be quiet and behave myself until you call on me.
Okay, I would prefer that it be under the CPARB update, which is listed right there on our agenda, because under the chief's update, we do have a part of that's fair and impartial policing training, and so I think it would...
It's not about training.
No, I know
Excuse
that.
me.
But we wanted to be able to hear about the training that the chief and officers undertake, just so we get a starting point here for our discussion, because one of the issues that is in our resolution is to hear about training that the officers are doing that we don't take. We're not going to be trained on fair and impartial policing.
Another part of our resolution is to work with the police department on policies and procedures.
And part of that procedure is the actual training that occurs. So if you don't mind, I mean, we are going to discuss it. It's just, it'll be a little bit later in the agenda.
It's a little further down on the agenda under 650.
I know, 650 is the time that it was going to.
Yeah, but under that section, there is another section for us to talk about.
Yeah, and its connection to fair and impartial policing.
I defer to the chair's feelings about this, and I will wait until you time you specify.
Thank you, I appreciate that. So Chief, what kind of training do officers receive?
So fair and impartial policing training is required and mandated by the state of Vermont. Right now, it's on odd years, so 2025 required mandatory fair and impartial policing training. That curriculum and training is developed by the Vermont Police Academy. All officers at the Bennington Police Department have until December 31st of 2025 to complete that training. This year it was an online training module, and I'm pleased to report that we all have completed that training, and we are up to date. That training requirement will be indicated at the end of this calendar year when we submit all of our training records to the Vermont Criminal Justice Training Council. And the Police Academy also keeps track of everyone that logs on and takes that training. 2 years ago, it was an in-person training opportunity. This year it was online. And for example, on even years, so in 2026, for example, it's mandatory domestic violence training. And so, there are some trainings which, when Jess and Lydia, when you participate with Lieutenant Grandy and I and others, and we go through the Community Policing Advisory Review Board training with you, you'll learn all of these things that, what's required, what is, and I don't want to take the time right now because it's not on the agenda, but you'll learn about all of the required trainings. There's a checklist that we have to submit, and we have to make sure our policies are up to date. We submit that with our training records for the year, and all of that gets submitted and reviewed. And then every now and then, departments are randomly selected for audits. And I'm pleased to say that the last time we were audited, we did amazingly well, and we have been selected in 2025 in September. Our 2024 training records will be audited. The Police Academy actually sends someone to the police department. We provide them with our records, and we sit and we answer all of their questions. So there's a checks and balance. I wanted to make sure you're aware of that. We would have gone over that, or we will go over that in the upcoming training. But it's that's something that we're very proud of, that we are up to date and we maintain our training adequately. So so that's where we're at with fair and impartial policing. Again, our policy's up to date. Our officers are up to date with training, and I don't know if anyone has any questions about that.
Sorry, could you repeat who does the audit?
The Vermont Criminal Justice Training Council will send a representative to the police department for the audit.
Other questions? Questions from the audience? No? All right. No one has any further comments? Thank you, Chief.
You're very
Appreciate
welcome.
your time.
Lydia, if you don't mind, I too would like a copy of what you have. I would like to, instead of me Googling, if you've printed it, then I don't have to print it.
You say piece of paper. Thank you.
All right. CPARB update. Did anybody have any questions about the resignations or next steps? We talked about them briefly, yes.
Would like to thank Lindsay and Vicki for their
Service. Sure.
And really do appreciate that. And I'm learning how much effort we really do put into this. They serve well. We owe them that gratitude.
I'll second that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. All right. The advertisement has been out. on the Bennington banner online. I believe it's also posted on Facebook. So if you know of anybody who's interested in serving on CPARB, we do have 2 openings. And I believe that the letters of intent should be sent to Dan Monks as acting town manager. And they're open until, I believe, September 26th, if that's correct. Anyway, any other questions? All right, thank you. Then we'll move to the training list for new members. I know that several of you have got some questions on that. There was a draft document, which I'm happy to share with members who might want to look at that, but there was not sufficient information to actually identify the modules. So once the Select Board approved the resolution, part of that resolution required that CPARB identify new training at the point of the submission of the annual report, which is in December. So because that was not in the old resolution, that wasn't done in January. So at our February meeting, we identified a couple of new components. One was use of force, and the other one was implicit bias that all new members should take. In addition to that, we looked it over, the chief and I looked it over with Cam, with the lieutenant in June to make sure that it was sufficient and covered all the bases for new members. And there were, I believe, 5 new things. The animal control, now that Isaacs is up and running, there's a formal animal control shelter, if you will, to hold animals domestic animals that have been seized. Extra duty details was added, crisis was added, internal affairs was added, and the ethics training was added. Other than that, these are all the rest of these are things that, components that continuing members have taken. Questions?
Do continuing members have to take them every 2 years, some of them?
The only thing that has to be repeated every 2 years is the CJIS online tutorial, which is around security and evidence holding. Other than that, once you've had the training, you're always welcome to attend the trainings that new members have, but you're not required to take those. Other questions?
So I think you and I talked briefly about this. In a situation like where the open meeting law was changed effective with the beginning of this year, it would make sense for all of us to be aware of what the updated open meeting law says that's new.
I would agree. I would agree. But there's no requirement that people take that new training. So I can send out, if you'd like, I can send out that link, that online link to all members, so just you got it. If people would like me to do that, just let me know.
Yeah, I'd like.
Okay, sure. Any other questions or comments about the training, required training? I think we've covered it. No?
Just, there are a lot of items here that it does not indicate how much time these elements involve. Pardon me. So it would be good to know if these are 15-minute modules or half-hour modules or whatever, so that
those of us who are trying to make ourselves available for these things can be more effective in making ourselves available. I know Jesse and I both, as new members, have tried not to badger anybody about training, but we'd like to get on with it.
So I'll address your concern, Lydia. The reason why we don't put time frames there is it depends on the number of people that show up, the number of questions that are asked, and we have content that we want to go over with you. We have a PowerPoint presentation. We give you scenarios. Sometimes when we initially did Community Policing Advisory Review Board training, it took lots of time on weekends, whole days on weekends, multiple days, some training at night and things like that. And when we do trainings now, sometimes a board member that's already been through the training will attend and won't have any questions, but new folks will have questions. So we found initially it was taking a longer period of time so that people understood laws, they understood the working agreement, the police contract, they understood internal affairs. So it's hard to put a time frame on that because then you're going to expect 30 minutes. We might be able to get through the training and both of you will understand everything in 15 minutes. So when we initially set up the training, it's not just going to be the lieutenant and I. You're going to have detectives, you're going to have animal control, you're going to have new supervisors, you're going to have human resources and contracts administrator. So it's all going to be different, and what we're going to do is we're going to set up blocks of time and we'll cover as much information as we can, and then we'll select a date. The group of us will select the date for the next one based on your availability. So that's why that's not we don't do it by time, just because again, we might get through something very quickly, and then again, sometimes like my select board presentations, instead of 20 minutes, we're here for an hour. So that's why that's like that. And as Kate said, I don't want either one of you stressed out. We opted to add use of force, to go into a little more depth in use of force training, so that you understand why the officers have to have minimum training requirements every year. No one's going to put you in an armbar takedown and put you down on the carpet or anything like that. It's just really for you to understand what we do. You're not going to have to be exposed to a taser or anything like that. Will you get to look at it? Will you get to see how the cartridges work and things like that? Absolutely, but no one's going to ask you to stand and take the 5-second ride. So, okay?
Makes sense.
Okay.
Jess? To be clear, that wasn't in my mind, but thanks for putting it there.
Well, I just want you to understand. I mean, there are opportunities for you to actually go hands-on with some of the equipment that we utilize, so that you understand what it's all about. Like, I mean, a lot of people don't know what wrist restraints feel like. Now, we're not going to put you in wrist restraints, but we're going to let you see the different variants of wrist restraints. So, okay, I'll leave it at that. So anyway, that's where we're at with that.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions or comments about the training?
Yeah, how do we check to see what training we've had? There's a lot of it.
I don't have anything, I don't have any history.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that the chief has got the new checklist here, and because all we're concerned about is the date and verification. So he's got that, and he will keep that for his records.
So I'm really sorry,
no, it's
Lydia
okay.
and Jess, to keep getting up. This is part of the reason why it's easier to do training, so that there's not so many questions. And I think you'll understand when we get into that. We can't start your training until your record checks come back. They're still not back. I came down from up north for a meeting, went to the office, checked my mailbox, hoping to give you both good news. I still have nothing. It does sometimes take a while for those to come back. But once those come back, Lieutenant Grandy's going to reach out to both of you, and we're going to get you your links and your passwords so you can do the CJIS training, which is all done online. And once you're done with that and you understand what you can and cannot do as far as records and things like that, we're going to get right into it. And we're going to have fun.
What's the maximum amount of time that it should take, and is there something that, have you heard things about delays or anything?
We've, so there have been delays, quite honestly, and I'm not picking on Mr. Frost here, but his took a little while to come back. He was calling, saying, can I get my CJIS testing done? And but it just depends on the state, and we don't, the fingerprints get submitted electronically, and then they get to it when they get to it. I don't have any control over that, unfortunately. We're hoping soon, but they've been submitted.
So none of the BPD training can happen?
No, because you're going to be inside of our facility, and in order to be inside of our facility, you must have CJIS training.
Make sure I understood what you were saying.
Yeah, so we're gonna use the BPD facility. The first thing to do is wait for those record checks to come back, and then that won't take you long, and then we're going to get going. We want to get going. Okay?
I just to keep everybody sort of, the anticipation and anxiety sometimes with the training can ratchet up people's concern. And the one thing that I'm not certain about is when we will have one member or two members that are added to it. So there may be further delays as we wait for these new members to come on, because otherwise it will take twice as much time. And that has to do with just scheduling issues. So I want to throw that out there so that if that occurs, that it's delayed further because of the two new members. Not that you aren't new, but you're now continuing. And we're going to, the select board is going to try to appoint two new members to take Lindsay and Vicky's place. So just so you have a sense of that. I want to be respectful of your time and the chief and lieutenant's time, but so I'm throwing that out there as a possibility, as the potential, and I just don't want you to be surprised about that. Any other questions or concerns or comments on that?
I guess my only one would be when they do select two additional members, those two folks will need to go through the background check as well, which will be another delay. 1 to 2 month delay.
Yeah.
And we have a 9-month obligation.
And the new members are only a 1-year term. Yeah, they fulfill the terms of Vicky and Lindsay. So I won't say anything more about that. Because I don't control it. And, oh well, okay. So now we'll get to the discussion of the fair and impartial policing policy, and it's linked to community policing, but I want to defer to you, Lydia, because I made you wait in terms of the motion that you'd like.
I don't know what you had in mind with this specific agenda item. Background for people who are not familiar with this policy and why it's so important is that the fair and impartial policing policy contains information about what level of cooperation our police department can give to ICE with regard to immigration and customs enforcement. There are some spots in it which give some discretion. There are things that I believe the police department may do or may not. And my motion, when this policy was drafted, again, April of 2024, there were no people without identification wearing masks in unmarked vehicles swooping down on people who are trying to take their kids to school, and the next thing you know, they're on their way to a detention center in Louisiana. That's what's going on now. That's what's happened as recently as this week, and that's what's happened in Manchester, Vermont. When this policy was drafted, there were a number of parties involved in the subcommittee, and they're still involved with it as it does its next version of this policy. That includes the Human Rights Commission, the Council. It includes the NAACP. It included and still includes Migrant Justice as an organization. It includes representatives of law enforcement, Chiefs of Police Association. Forgive me, Chief, if I don't have the exact title correct. The Attorney General's office is part of this process as well. And when this was done back in 2024, the Criminal Justice Council made a recommendation to the subcommittee made a recommendation to the Criminal Justice Council, and not all of the elements of their recommendation were accepted by the Criminal Justice Council in 2024. And they, generally speaking, I think may have strengthened the policy, but for reasons that the Criminal Justice Council felt shouldn't be included, they didn't include them. I was able to get a hold of, and I shared this with the chair, Migrant Justice was kind enough to share with me. I was trying to find out what did they not include the last time around. And the only thing I could come up with, I reached out to Human Rights, I reached out to ACLU was another organization involved. I heard back from the Attorney General's office. I couldn't find very much that gave me, what was the draft that originally was recommended. What I did get from Migrant Justice is a redlined markup of the policy, which I'm not necessarily advocating that all of Migrant Justice's proposed changes be accepted. I'm going to offer it to the Select Board and to my colleagues on this board as food for thought. Again, I recently reached out again to Migrant Justice to see, is there anything else that you'd like to add? And they said, no, if you just take a look at what we gave you in terms of this red line document, that would be a good starting point. So I'll, with the chair's permission, I will email that to the board members here and to Clark. Again, I'm not taking a position that says that the Select Board should adjust our fair and impartial policing policy with all of these elements. I'm saying with my motion that the Select Board, the statute that requires we adopt this new policy, which apparently we've done it already, it just isn't on the website, is 20 VSA section 2366, for those of you playing at home. That statute, in addition to saying all agencies should adopt this revised policy, says that we also have the ability, quote, to include additional restrictions on agency members, that's police departments, law enforcement agencies, on agency members' communication and involvement with federal immigration authorities or communications regarding citizenship or immigration status. My motion to the Select Board is that the Select Board, in accordance with the statute's provision allowing us to do this, solicits input from the community regarding modifications, further modifications to this policy that, given the fact that we are in a totally different enforcement environment now than we were a year and a half ago, that we may want to consider adding to this policy. We can't take anything away from the policy. We can add to it. So that said, and this was the second part of my motion, but the motion now is that the Select Board solicit input from the community regarding modifications to the FIP policy to, quote, include additional restrictions on agency members' communication and involvement with federal immigration authorities or communications regarding citizenship or immigration status as provided for in 20 VSA Section 2366. That's my motion.
Second?
Second?
Second.
I'd like to clarify something. I believe a couple of months ago, the chief came in here and the select board was clearly informed, and I've relayed this to members of the community, that the Bennington Police Department in no way will participate in any immigration law enforcement activities. I understand the chief clearly said if we have an individual here who commits a felony, a crime in this town, who happens to fall in the category of undocumented, illegal, whatever term folks want to apply, that person would be treated as the offender for that event, not their immigration status. Of course, you can bring this forward to select board, but I think we've already been informed on the board, and I didn't hear any objection from my fellow board members on the chief's position that we don't do ICE enforcement and that we're in compliance with the standards that have been set forth from the state. So, I can talk to them about it, but I think it's already in my mind a foregone conclusion based on the chief's words that this would just be an extra spoon of sugar in the cup. It's not going to change the content.
May I ask, I'm asking the chair if I can respond.
Sure.
Gentlemen's agreements are fine, but what I'm looking for here, we're here to talk about policies and procedures. And I spent a career working on contracts. And if it's not in the contract, it doesn't exist. So what I'm asking is please take a look at this. Look at what this particular participant in the process felt was omitted or should be added to the policy. We have the ability to do that. I know there's a little spat going on now between, it's not a spat, it's really important, between Governor Scott and the Attorney General of the United States over whether Vermont is a sanctuary entity. And our governor wrote back to the Attorney General and said, this policy has a clear requirement in it that says we're not going to do anything that doesn't comply with, he cites the federal statutes that are in the policy. However, there are things in the policy that may do or can do that need to be, in my opinion, at least thought about. Let's strengthen this. And given the environment that we're in, it's a whole different ballgame than when this policy was originally written.
I understand what you're saying, but maybe I'm a little Pollyanna, but I consider the chief man of the word commitment that the select board heard, and we have no objection to the select board members that we, here in Bennington, do not involve ourselves in immigration law and enforcement action. That we treat criminals as criminals, not as whatever their subcategory may be. And I don't think, maybe I'm mistaken, I don't think the chief needs written directives and policies from the select board to continue what he's currently doing. If he does, of course, I'll stand behind that request. I think the chief will be clear to the select board and the community that pretty much our town policy is exactly what you're seeking, that we are not involved in ICE activities, period.
In fact, there was a resolution that the Select Board passed that said as much. And it was, what, a month or so ago that the Select Board passed that, maybe 2 months. The other thing is that this is supposed to be a discussion of the linkage between fair and impartial policing and community policing. And our concern is for our community, and while it's wonderful to have a conversation about the entire state and the country at this point, it's really not our purview. And that's my concern here. I appreciate the work and effort that you've put into this, but I think that we need to concentrate on our focus is on community policing and the fact that fair and impartial policing is embedded in the framework of community policing. And the fact that the state has done, there's elements within fair and impartial policing policy that include immigration law and interactions with federal immigration officers, ICE, that I think that it's behooves us to stay within our framework in terms of our commitment to the community and what's happening in the
That's why my motion says, asks that the select board solicit input from the community.
But the select board has already passed a resolution supporting this. So I've got a couple of questions. Kelly?
This is more a point of clarification that will come out when you actually get to go through all of the training. But the way it was put to us by the select board when Tom Haley was our chair and Jeannie Jenkins was the chair of the select board, excuse me, is that you're an advisory review board, which is mostly a lot after the fact. So it's completely appropriate to say, hey, we want to look at this policy. But if you're going to make changes or you want something like that, then probably what you should do is make a little committee to go through that policy, put it on an agenda, and come back with the specific changes that you want. And then when you go and you wordsmith, because it'll probably take a couple of meetings, but after you do that, then you give it to Clark, and Clark brings it to the select board. But you're really the arm that's supposed to do the wordsmithing on the policies. You're not supposed to say, to make a motion to send it to them to do it. It's more of the job here. And when you do have a policy, and this is again from Tom Haley and Jean Jenkins and Merrill Bent, when you look at the policy, you can make suggestions and you can say, hey, I want this or I want that. But a lot of times it's up to the chief as to whether they can go through. And sometimes that has to do with the specifics in Vermont statute and the legislation. And even though you think common sense is like, well, duh, why can't I change a word? There's reasons why you can't. So you have the right to do the input, but you don't really have any say on making it. You know, once you present it, it goes to the chief and it goes to the select board and stuff, but they would need more specifics instead of just something vague to go and look at, because that's more your role to do for them.
The other thing, thank you, Kelly. The other thing is that nowhere in our resolution does it have the word advocacy. And what you're proposing is that we advocate for something, and that's truly not our role. We educate, we don't advocate. And you can do this, though, as an individual citizen, not representing CPARB. You're perfectly able to do that, and I think that would be a wonderful opportunity to do. But as CPARB, that's not our role. That's not part of our resolution. And so I think that could be a real slippery slope for us, and it's not what we do.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So we have a motion on the table. We have a second. Any other discussion? I'd like to call the question.
Just from the community component, at the last meeting, we did have somebody come from the community who had concerns, and we heard what they had to say. And I think that in this community, there is concern from individuals, especially individuals who maybe don't feel comfortable raising their voice.
And I appreciate that, but that's why we had the chief address the issue on the statement to the community by Vermont. That's why we had so much time that we took up with that, so that he could get that, and it's part of our packet, so that if folks from the community who want to take a look at the state policy on that, that our police department adheres to, you're welcome to do that. It's within the packet, and it is called the Vermont Criminal Justice Council Statement on Communities. You can also get it on their website if you want an electronic copy, but it's also part of our packets for tonight.
And as Clark said, too, you know, with good intention, policies are so sensitive, you know, we won't want to allow crime to happen because something went wrong with the policy.
So I'd like to call the question and call for a vote, if we're done with that.
I just, if a member of the community wanted, had a concern with and wanted to make some changes to the policy, where would they go? Would they come to us or the select board?
They would go to the select board. Yes, Sarah.
Thank you. I'm very hesitant to speak because I am on select board, but I do want to reiterate that I know a couple of you haven't been through the training. So Clark, thank you for letting me speak. So CPARB, as many of you that have been through the training know, is an extension of the select board. So I think something like this would go to your liaison, and the liaison would bring this to the select board for address, and then I think this is where that would go and not as a motion right here. Thank you for bringing this up, though.
Thank you. No other comments? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed? Abstaining? Okay, so you said aye. Okay, so the motion fails 3-2. Thank you.
I would just comment, I think it is a good idea to pass it through the liaison. I'm not saying that's not a good idea.
Yeah.
I would say the same thing.
Yeah, me too.
I will send everybody a copy of the annotated version and see what you expect.
Right. I will also, of course, I will pass it on to the board, but I will be asking the chief to see, the PD's formal written policy on these concerns that you're addressing also. But I understood what he relayed to us, but I will be asking him for a written document supporting his statements.
Okay, can we then move to the consistency, complementarity, integration of fair and impartial policing into the principles of community policing? You've got a document in your packet about that. Any discussion on that? Any questions about that? Does it make sense? Okay, what the document talks about is that there goes back to the discussion we had last month on the principles of community policing. There's 7 of them. In particular, there's decentralization of command consistent with supervision and encouragement of community engagement, accountability to the local community, and a focus on crime prevention. Within the context of fair and impartial policing, we have clear guidance, guidelines for unbiased policing practices, and then focus on implicit bias and cultural competency. So there's an integration there, and in a sense, there's really no difference between the two in terms of implementation. And through our listening sessions and other contacts that we've had with community groups, we've got lots of examples of the integration of that, particularly as it speaks to engagement with the community. And engagement with the community and various organizations can be anything from a parent who's in crisis and somebody, a neighbor, whoever, calls in a voice of concern, and the police arrive, and instead of calling DCF to take the child away, they talk to the Sunrise Family Resource Center or UCS to bring those folks in to support the family rather than punish the family because the parent might need respite. Rather than arrest adolescents because they are in a place that they shouldn't be, let's say, violating some boundary issue at a public building where it's closed and they're not supposed to be on the premises, where in fact somebody's given them permission to do it, it's just not the person, not the administrator who confronts them. And instead of arresting or giving a ticket, they're asked to get a letter from the administrator or the person that they're talking to, that they've talked to get permission, and bring that to the department. So there's a way to work with the community to lower the temperature, if you will, to create a sense of collaboration that the department has, through our listening sessions, we've discovered, fully embraced. So I wondered if others had questions or examples of ways in which fair and impartial policing is brought together into or integrated into community policing.
This maybe goes back a little bit to the last meeting about the questions that are asked.
Sure.
And after the meeting, you provided the previous notes on meetings, and looking at some of the comments, it seems like return visits to places are very important in actually building some understanding and narrative, because it didn't sound like everywhere people felt that community policing was happening, the way the first question is stated about we operate with community policing, do you know what that is? Doesn't necessarily could bring people into the conversation a little better by starting with, this is what our practice is. How has that worked for you?
We actually have had an introduction.
Okay.
That when we first started doing the listening sessions, we actually had a introduction written out about community policing, what it was. The more we got used to doing listening sessions, we dropped the introduction and just talked to them about what community policing was, because what we discovered was that most people didn't understand the idea of collaboration, and then once we started to give examples, then they understood it. And that was sort of in some ways, an icebreaker. So they didn't feel foolish or uninformed about it, because that was never our intent. It is not our intent. It's really just to provide them with information. But community policing is really a practice. It's a philosophy, a strategy, and a practice that officers use. The police department it's so integrated into it that people actually come to the department thinking that they can get human service assistance, or they can get mental health assistance. And officers and people at the desk, the dispatch folks, communication folks, have to actually explain that, no, the police department can't get them housing, but they can put them in touch with somebody who could potentially help them with housing. No, they can't give them clothing, but they can take them to the free store, and they can get clothing there. It's those sorts of things that are so ingrained in the department that nobody even thinks about, oh, this is complete community policing anymore. It's just what they do. So there's been a cultural shift within the department. I would say, I think some of this has always been there, but now we've put a name on it. And as a consequence, we're trying to get people to understand that this is what community policing looks like, and that's why we do our listening sessions. Because there's so many different groups in Bennington that still feel that the police department should be able to solve everything, and nobody can. It's a collective. And I've talked to the chief and a lieutenant about this, to have potentially a presentation on what's called BenStat, which is an initiative that the department created that just focuses on Bennington, and to help those individuals who repeatedly are having trouble, and so they can link them to services, whatever those services might be. So in the next couple of months, we'll have that presentation, so you're aware of that, and then if you know somebody or see someone who's in distress, and share that individual, because there's a communication page, comment page on the department's website that people can share that. I'm concerned about whoever, right? And to get them services. And that person may be brought into the BenStat discussion, and the appropriate service providers contacted, or be a part of that discussion about what can be done. But that's all the part of this integration that the state policy has with community policing, and which was, and I don't know that the current Secretary of the Department of Justice knows about it, and I won't get political, but it's still there, and it's still on their website in terms of community policing. So it's a link there. Thank you.
I think another great example is a homeless person was trying to steal a shirt or something at a store, and one of the police officers said, if you put that shirt back, I'll show you where you can get clothes for free, and they took him to the free store rather than make a big deal, prosecute them.
So are there any other questions, comments, discussion about the integration of these two policies? Oh, no? Okay. Then let's move on to the listening session that we had, Scott and I had at the emergency department with staff there and administrators. I wondered if anybody had any questions or comments about it. You've got it in your packet. This was in, was it July? Yeah, July 2nd. Did anything strike you in that? Yeah, Jeff?
Well, I was just curious. I wasn't aware that the BPD is actually at the hospital working there on several shifts. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah, I did not know that.
Yeah. I know that staff really appreciated that. They brought it up several times, how helpful that was to them. Lowered the temperature for patients who had been brought in, were having either substance use, alcohol, or mental health crises, and it really helped to know that the officers were there, that an officer was there.
One of the things that impressed me was some of the hospital workers said when a patient was disruptive and they recognized a police officer, the de-escalation happened almost immediately because they had confidence in the police officer.
Yeah. Any other comments on that? So that as we, no? Okay. As we go forward with listening sessions, they'll just be attached to this one so that we get a full sense of the year of us doing that. I will be contacting the counselors at the middle and high school. We had planned to have listening sessions with students at the beginning of the year, so now that school is in, I'll contact them after Labor Day and see if we could set something up. So let me know. I will be going, and let me know if you're interested in going with me. We just try to limit it to 2, sometimes 3, but 2 is usually sufficient. It doesn't intimidate people, and it doesn't matter to us how many people show up. If only 2 people come, it doesn't matter. We're still going to do the listening session. We're still going to ask for their comments.
With the board being down to 5 members,
Yeah.
can we exceed 2?
No, not at a listening session.
Right.
I would prefer not.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we wind up with a quorum issue.
Right.
Just to clarify
Yeah.
that to your question. This proves I watched the open meeting law.
Yep.
Quorum is defined by the number of seats on this panel. Therefore, we are a 7-member panel,
Yeah.
and a quorum is 4.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know,
We are, the resolution says 5 to 7. So right now, we're 5. So we're within our legal framework, 5 to 7. So, yeah, because it's not fixed. So I would prefer that we be safe instead of sorry in terms of this, so that we only have 2 people that, until we're a full complement to 7.
let's just understand the facts.
Sure.
Folks. A quorum is based on, there are 2 openings. The select board has indicated that there are 2 openings. Therefore, we are a 7-member board. Therefore, a quorum is 4. Now, I appreciate the sensitivity, you don't want to go in with a crowd, but let's not, that's a separate discussion. A quorum is 4.
Okay. We're actually not discussing what a quorum is. We're talking about the listening sessions. And what we have found is that when there's 3 of us in the room, we have a tendency to intimidate the respondents. That's all. And it's a part of a good practice when you do any kind of a focus group, which is kind of what these are. The number of folks who are administering or conducting or facilitating the focus group do not exceed the number of people who are in there attending it. So, I mean, yeah. I don't want to get bogged down like this, yeah. The minutia at this point will, because it has to do with the times that are available for us and for whoever we're meeting with.
I would like to attend one. Just
Sure,
throwing that out there.
that's great. That's great.
It's really nice to have 2 people.
Yeah.
because you can help.
Yeah, who we back each other up. Okay, that's great to know. And so we talked a little bit about finding new organizations. Lydia, you had mentioned, I think, I'm not sure if it was during a meeting or after a meeting, on the coalition of, and I don't have the exact name, so I apologize if I identify them incorrectly on the agenda. I always call them the Homeless Coalition, but I don't know if that's their proper name. Do you have any contact? Oh, there actually is a coalition for the homeless. Yeah, and that's how I know them. Yeah, okay. But do you have so you don't have a contact there? Okay, so I will contact them. Any other suggestions for agencies? I mean, we've tried to get into Queer Connect, but have not been able to set anything up with them or even have a conversation about how this all works. So that's one that we would like to be able to do. So if anybody has a connection there, we would love to have a listening session with them to get their thoughts. I've been in contact with somebody from the NAACP. I'm hoping to, we've been communicating back and forth for several weeks. It's summer, so it gets to be tricky with holidays and vacations and all the rest of that. So I'm hoping that I can set something up with the NAACP and then get a date for us by the time we meet again. Okay. I did attend the BBC meeting in July. Several shop owners expressed a lot of concern, actually, on sentencing. I talked to them about our forum that we are planning for November, and so they were looking forward to that to find out current policy, because their issues are current, and they're having trouble with several folks who go in and shoplift and are charged and then are released, and they just come back and do it again. So they were looking forward to the forum. And that's all I have on that. Any other thoughts or questions about the listening session? If not, then we'll go to the forum itself. Now that we have a chair appointed, I will contact the individuals on this first part about potential panelists. When Lindsay was on the board, she suggested that if one of the two people who we invited from probation and parole or United Counseling Services aren't able to make it, that we try to get DCF on board with that, and if they can make it. Okay. The one thing that was added to here, oh, for goodness sakes. Oh, bummer. Okay. No? Oh, yeah, this. Why did I make a copy of that? No, I apologize. I gave you all the old copy of the proposal instead of the revised copy that had the goals on it.
Okay.
You don't have it. No.
How about the,
Hang on.
how about the
Maybe I put it
legislators?
in a different place.
Are the same legislators?
Yes. Haha. I do have it. Sometimes the brain does not want to connect with what I'm looking at. Okay. Purpose of the forum. It is on there. These are our goals. So that's what I wanted to talk about tonight. Do you have any questions on the purpose of the forum?
I have a comment.
Sure.
Under number 2, improve understanding of why offenders of serious crime are often released without any prison or jail time. That seems like a very biased statement with no detail to back it up.
I'm sorry, could you say more about that in terms of bias?
Well, I mean, you made a comment just now about shoplifting.
Right.
Does that qualify as a serious crime?
No, these are serious crimes such as drug sales. There's been several incidences that have been in the paper over the last few years about people pleading down and being released or having minimal jail time for what we have the public would think of as serious crime. Now, sometimes they are moved to federal court, and so Vermont has no say in that. But I want to make sure, we wanted to make sure when we were setting this up, that the community, the public, residents in Bennington had a full sense of what the sentencing structure allows or doesn't allow. As I said, this is not advocating, but there seems to be lots of confusion around what can and cannot be done from the courts, but also from the police. And there's just a lot of confusion around it. So this is, I'm talking about there is serious crime that happens.
Yep, violent crimes. too.
Violent crime.
And juveniles that do violent crimes. There's
Right.
nothing we can do about it in Vermont.
Right.
And when at the last session we had like this, safety session, we had some of the judges on the panel, and they said, before you get mad at us, it's not us, it's the legislators in Vermont. They're having very lax laws about prosecuting violent criminals.
Right, I listened to that.
The previous forum?
Yeah, I
Okay,
listened to the
good.
forum, which it sounded like they did have a long discussion on this. But
So would you want to change that? I mean, this is not set in stone. Is there something that, because we're focused in on safety and equity, is there some way that you want to change that? You want to get rid of that goal? This is the time to do that.
I have to think for a moment.
Sure. How about while you're thinking about that, how about the other three goals? Provide an overview of the factors in sentencing that influence crime prevention strategies in Vermont. That's the first one. The third is to inform the public on the roles public agencies and nonprofits play and the resources they can provide to the successful completion of sentencing as detailed in court orders. For example, we have CRJ represented here, and they often get referrals from both probation and parole and from the courts. They're lower level offenses, but there are, and many of them involve juveniles when it comes to knives and guns and violence. And then there's the public defender is involved in that. And we wanted Mr. Plunkett, who's a state senator, who can tell us more about current law.
And how they're making them.
Yeah, or if they have, I mean, I don't know what their plans are, but the folks felt that we needed a member of the legislature on this panel. We got that from the forum itself, last forum.
Did this come out of the listening sessions prior to the forum?
The first forum?
Yes.
No, the first forum was actually generated from a select board listening session on public safety. And I know that at least one person asked that CPARB do something, because they, in a venue that would direct that. And the first forum, as you watched it, also dealt with vigilantism. And the individual spoke at the listening session the select board had, was particularly concerned about that. And it still occurs. I have no idea how often, but that still occurs. And from that first forum, we came to this as a second forum, as a follow-up to that, of recommendations. So because we don't ask about public safety in our listening sessions. We ask about the experiences of the attendees, but in general, we don't talk about public safety unless they bring it up. And so far, they really haven't. So circling back to your concern about that second, do you have any other thoughts about how it can be reworded?
Yeah,
Or,
yeah.
Okay.
I can.
I mean, if you want, you can send
wordsmith.
something to me.
Yeah, sure.
That would be great. I don't want to, we don't have to wordsmith it now.
Yeah.
But if you have a change, for sure, we have time. Okay?
I had a couple of questions.
Sure.
Why only invite DCF if UCS or probation and parole decline? Are we trying to limit the number?
To be honest with you, yeah, I think that's a good point. Yes, we are. Because what we
Okay.
found at our last public forum, we ran over by about 15 minutes and never even got to anything
Okay.
about CPAR.
So it's better to
So, yeah.
keep it, yep.
Rather
Okay.
than to expand that, we want to be able to give attendees
Time.
sufficient time.
Yep, makes
Yeah.
sense. And then my other question, on November 5th in this room.
Yeah.
Is the room reservation confirmed?
Yes, yeah. We were not able, we originally wanted it on a Thursday. So we wanted it on the 6th.
Okay.
And weren't able to get it on the 6th because it was already
Okay.
assigned.
Yeah, because I thought the fire department had, the first Wednesday of the month is the fire department meeting, and I don't know.
Well, I'll
it would-
check again.
Yeah, well,
I'll check
just double
again.
check, and I'm sure that
Yeah.
we could figure something out.
Okay,
If this is set in stone, yeah.
yeah. Well, so far, we've already changed it once, because we had it on the 6th. And the Wednesday, November 5th was cleared, but I'll check again and confirm. Yeah, yeah, no problem. Okay.
I guess my last question is about number 3 on the
On the-
objectives of the forum.
Okay.
And to listen to the community's concerns and questions on sentencing. It sounds like most of the conversation that was generated about sentencing was from the individuals participating in the panel. Is that
We also had
accurate?
questions from the audience. There were a couple of people, I don't remember how many, to be honest with you. But there were a few people who asked about sentencing, which is why the panelists kept coming back to it. Like, there's nothing we can do. I'm sorry, talk to your legislators, because they were concerned about things that had gone wrong or repeat offenders. Like who were doing the shoplifting or something like that. And so that's what prompted this one, because that request was coming from, we want to have more information about current practice. Any other questions, thoughts? No? Okay. Moving on then, and you'll send me that new goal.
Sure.
All right, wonderful. Upcoming agenda items? Any? We're going to have, hopefully, another listening session before we meet in October. There'll be a review of the final elements for the forum in terms of goals, because we have to get it to program set for Jonah on that, so that he can get those for our presentation, for the forum presentation. Anything else? I'm sorry.
One thing, I think it'd be interesting to have a listening session with the police department at some point.
Well, we've talked about that. It's just been difficult with staff shortages. And of course, summer is a bit of a zoo, really, with all the events that are occurring and obligations that the police department are responsible for.
Yeah.
So
Right.
hopefully we'll be able to do one in the coming year, in this 25-26 time. But the chief knows that we're interested in doing that. It's just a matter of getting it on the calendar. Okay, anything else then?
Can we go back to the sentencing real fast?
Oh, sure.
Sorry.
No.
I wanted to ask about number 4 on the purpose of, I don't understand exactly how this forum would improve understanding of CPARB's role in educating and informing the community on those best practices.
Actually, we left it on there because we never got to it at the last forum. We weren't even able to address it because we were running so late. And so we want to make, as a public event, we want to make sure that it was an opportunity, let me put it that way. It was an opportunity for us to talk about CPARB and our role, the limitations of our role. As you saw from the family that was here at the beginning, they thought that we would be able to actually do something about their concern, when all we were able to do was refer them to the complaint process. Sometimes people think that we can actually change something, advocate for something, and that's not our role. And so the limits of our role, but there's also the opportunities of what we do.
So shouldn't that be at the forefront so that it doesn't get kicked down to a third forum?
Yeah, I guess, we're going to ask these questions and have them present. To be honest with you, it's just as my opinion, but I would like to hear from the panelists before, obviously there'll be something in the program that they receive that's got a little bit about CPARB. But I don't want CPARB to be out front in this, if that makes sense. We serve at the pleasure of the select board, who in turn serves at the pleasure of the community. And so I guess that's how I saw it. Anyway, other thoughts? These goals will be presented to the panelists as, could you speak to this? And then they will address it, all 5 or 6, however many come. And then we move to the next one. And then at the end, they can either talk about this or we can talk about it. Whoever, I'll be there as chair. Hopefully Jeff can be there as vice chair, or another member of the board can be there to assist in that facilitation. So, thoughts, questions from others about moving CPARB to the top rather than the bottom?
Would it be possible to have somewhat of a short introduction or discussion and then get into it and then maybe go back to, if there's any further discussion, but at least some sort of a little bit of maybe self-promotion or clarification or whatever you want to call it, just so people understand who we are.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm happy to change it. This is just how we've done it in the past. So whatever your pleasure is. So we've heard from 2. Scott, Lydia, any thoughts on where we should be on this? Does it matter to you?
I just don't really see much of a through line.
Sure. I'm happy to change that.
Policing.
Yeah. Okay.
If this is about community policing in some way.
Yep. Okay. Will do. While we're back at it, there is a list here at the back about responsibilities. And so, yeah. Would anybody care to contact the YMCA about pre-registration for childcare?
Sure, I'll take care of it.
Okay, Scott. Okay, great. With Jonah?
How many people did you get at the last forum?
There must have been, Kelly, remind me, about 30 at the last forum, about 30 folks?
Yeah, there was.
About 30, 35, something like that. I know that didn't seem, there.
Because it was pretty.
Yeah. We made 50.
A bit more this time because that one was so well received.
Yeah. We made 50 pamphlets, 50 programs, and we only had maybe 10 or 15 left over. So that's why I came to the 30 count. We had it in this room. It was filled. We had the back, and there were a couple people standing. So it was a good turnout. And Cat TV, as you saw, did a video. Chief.
Kate, I would just ask that, we consider and look back and see if we really needed childcare at the last one. We didn't have any.
No, we didn't have
Anybody that
any.
brought their children that required that.
No.
And the YMCA did bill the police department for childcare services, and we didn't have any children.
Okay.
So I would ask that we strike that from the next forum, just to save that money, please.
Sure, oh yeah, no problem. I didn't realize you were charged for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, because there weren't any kids there at all, which in some ways is good, because they would not have enjoyed the discussion. No toys. No, it's okay.
I just want to give a shout out to the Y.
Oh, yeah.
For the YMCA, they brought a full staff here.
Yeah.
To take care of the kids, in the other room, and they brought games and stuff to play, and I think they just played games themselves because there were no children.
Yeah, and they
like I
brought
said,
pizza.
Yeah.
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 Speaking
Thank you.
as a parent, that's what Cat TV it comes into play most of the time because I can't.
Yeah, it's not instantaneous, it's posted a few days later, so, yeah. Anyway, we'll strike that.
Okay. We did, Jesse, just so you know, we did advertise that we were going to have childcare here, and just nobody took advantage of that. So I just don't think we should be paying for something if it's not going to be utilized. Yeah. Thank you.
Can people, if people did, in the coming months express a concern about
Or
that?
disappointment.
Or, who would they reach out to? Would they reach out to CPARB, or would they reach out to the police department?
The CPARB email address for all of you and for the chair is on the website. So if somebody was going to, bring a bunch of kids and, it was going to be worth paying the money, I don't think honestly it's worth paying the money just to have a couple of kids here. And the fire department, got to give a shout out to them for allowing that to happen, because that's their private quarters where where the child care was going to be. So, but that's a good way to look at it is, if somebody really expressed an interest and others are as well, then it's something we can consider as we get closer.
All right. Okay, if there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain. Thank you. Good night, everybody. Thank you.